movie.
Hello and welcome to Spookies, Hunting for History. I'm Stephen.
And I'm Becky.
And in today's video, we're not actually at Bilsdean, despite this being called Bilsdean 3. But we do consider this part 3 of our Bilsdean exploration. And you know, that's because we actually went along to look at some of the places we saw on the maps in Bilsdean part 2 and to see what they were like in real life. And we do come across some interesting sights, so why not join us? First, a wee look at the map, and you'll see Bilsdean there. And we're going to show you where we're going in location to Bilsdean. So, you'll see we walked along to here in the last one. That was Bilsdean part 2. And you'll see the place there marked Otter Hole, if you'll remember that. But if you keep going further along, you'll see a place called Old Walls, as well as another Stand Lane. And these are the places that I was going to try and get to on this little adventure. So it meant that we have to walk along this whole beach, which is actually quite a walk. Didn't realise how long a walk it was until I was there. So it was actually really nice, and you'll get to see that from two perspectives. One time when I went with Becky, and I went mostly by myself, the rest of the way, and the weather was nice that time. And then another time when we went back and the weather was very different. But that's where we went to there, Thorntonloch Beach. So this is where we begin our little journey. So here we are on Thorntonloch Beach. So if you were to actually walk about a mile and a half, just under a mile and a half along this beach, you would make it back to Bilsdean. Bilsdean waterfall and all the things that you saw in the last video. And we will be getting pretty close to that stuff, so stick around for that. But the first thing that you notice here is this amazing sort of wall. I assume this was built to protect against the storms, because there's a sort of caravan site up here. I was just assumed that these concrete sort of blocks were made to, you know, protect from the water wearing away the land and storm damage and things like that. But for the most part, it did seem to just be some sort of old concrete. A really interesting point. I just wanted to make note of it. Should also mention that this beach is actually right next to a nuclear power station, but I'll touch on that a wee bit later on. But here's another look at that wall. Just really cool. Look at the size of these concrete blocks. Really interesting. I wonder how they made this. Here we are. Nice photograph of it before we move on. Just a bit further up, here's some signs of the stuff that you'll see washed up after some of the crazy weather that happens out here. And some of the not so crazy weather, to be honest. But yeah, you get weird things washing up here. And we'll see a few more, I'm sure, as we walk along. And you know, despite it being December here, it was actually quite a nice day, nice weather. And that couldn't be said when we came back. Check out this, it completely changed, completely different day. And you'll see in a bit just how much that actually affects the land here. There was a few differences that we noted, one really big difference that we noted, so stick around if you want to see that. It's really interesting. There's also a lot of those sleeper waves that you see that just keep coming and coming and coming. They look miles off, but they just kept coming in. Before you know it, you're standing in a pool of water.
Look at that. That's weird,
Probably just some radioactive foam from the power station, but check this out, guys surfing out there in that radioactive water. And on the way, you actually have to cross this river, so wellies are needed. Unfortunately, on this occasion, Becky didn't have the right footwear on, so I had to venture the rest of the way on my own. And here's one of the things that I did see just at the other side of that river. Just some really unusual big large blocks just sticking out the ground. Just thought I would take note of this for the bigger picture of the area. So from this point on, as I mentioned, it's just me. venturing forward alone to see what I could find. Don't worry though, Becky will be back later because we do come back here for a second visit. But here I am, on my way towards the area that we saw on the map marked as Old Walls. And here's some of the things I saw on that walk towards it. First thing, and probably the most obvious thing you'll see in this video, is just the amount of different types of stone and things like that you see in the area. I mean, look at that, looking like some sort of a concrete or something that someone's made, and just look at them. There's so many different types in the area. Even noticed a couple of fossils later on in the video. As we get closer, we come across this first sort of sandstone flooring area. I mean, look at it, it's absolutely incredible. Lots of wee interesting parts. It could just be natural, looks at I guess in many ways, but as you'll see that we point out in parts, there are some strange anomalies. And I just think it's good to look at these because it makes something that appears completely natural. It then makes you question it and go, is this seemingly natural thing actually natural? And that's where you just start, your mind just starts wandering. But we'll point out some of it as we go. And here we are on our way to look at one of those strange anomalies, but just on the way, look at this. Straight away you notice all these different types of layering and different stones again in the area. I just find it all very intriguing, and remember, the way I look at this is, if it is something, you know, structure, it has to be so old that we just won't understand it, I don't think, at first glance. And this is why we're looking at it carefully. Anyway, here is that spot. I mean, what is this? I thought this looked like some sort of really old metal or something stuck into the rock. You know, maybe this is natural sandstone formed around something, or maybe purposefully fabricated spot. Who knows? I think it might be. I mean, we've seen a lot of strange things on this channel, especially within sandstone, so yeah, find it really interesting. Here's a good look at it in photographic form. What do you think it is? Please do put your thoughts in the comments, because this is really interesting, I think. As always with these ones down at the beach, I was on limited time for the tide, so I had to keep going. Eventually, I did reach this really interesting spot, and this is probably one of my favourite spots of this whole area, and I'll show you why soon. But yeah, it was really intriguing again, with really questionable looking rocks and stones, you know, depending on your views. But yeah, I'm going to shut up for a minute and let you enjoy some of this area, and I'll pop back in when there's wee bits to point out. If you're familiar to these types of videos, you might already be noticing some of these lines in the area. Partition lines perhaps. I mean, look at this. This goes all the way up and there's a clear separation between these two areas of rock. How did it get like that? It's really interesting. It could have this be fabricated. I think maybe. Look at some of these interesting shapes in the area as well. Just want to make note of these because I think it all is part of the big picture of the area and how it was formed. What do you think? Do you think this channel could be intentional? It's just become filled with all these little pebbles and stones and boulders over time? Maybe this part's broken off. Maybe it was a little bridge stepping way. Who knows? Maybe it's completely natural. Make note of all these layers as well in the stone. I thought that's really great to see. Really interesting. But here's why I love the area so much. This bit up ahead. Now I'm just making my way over there to get a nice closer look. But you'll probably already be recognising some of this as very similar to over at Bilsdean. These strange sort of rocks at the coast. Really looking suspicious to us in a way. But really similar to that at Bilsdean. And we're not that far from Bilsdean now. actually. Here where the river exits the gap between the hills, I just thought it was such a lovely spot, and it really made me think about the history of the area. Now the area that I just zoomed all the way in on is actually where I'm headed. But before I did that, I thought it'd be good to have a wee detour up here and see where this river went, see if I could see anything else, see how far I could get along, and if there was anything interesting up here. And this next clip is actually what I saw as I walked along there, to see where that river came from.
Rest in peace, little buddy. Rest in peace, pal. Ah. It's really deep. I'm not taking a risk today. Back we go.
Indeed, it was actually very deep, and I didn't want to take any risks on this visit. Maybe we'll come back another time and see if we can get up there. And of course, rest in peace to that wee bit of wildlife. What a shame, eh? You see those interesting walls on the way in, those strange sort of block-like looking wall. I thought it was really intriguing, and I think it's worth maybe going back for a wee visit sometime. For today though, I had to try and make it along to where Old Walls was on the map, so I had to keep on with the pace. And here's some of the more things that I've seen on the way. Now, originally I would just assume this is natural, you know. You see all these layers and things like that in it, and that's the way I've always been taught about history, about geology and things like that. You know, but I don't really know much about geology, I have to say that. But as I spent more time in this area, I started to question more of how could this actually be fabricated. And then I found this one spot that really made me question, could this be fabricated? And here it is. Look at this. I thought it was important to point out these separation lines and how it really makes it look like, you know, different sections and different parts. But as you head inside, you'll see it's completely backfilled with all these pebbles and stones and things like that. But if you look at the ceiling, it really does look like a separate part on top of the sides. And then what's this? What could this be? Is this from some sort of old gate? Is it a hinge? Or is it just the way the rocks formed? Not sure. Please leave your thoughts in the comments as always. Look at that, really interesting, right? And I did aim to come back with a shovel and try and scoop out some of these stones. But as you'll see, with the weather being different, when me and Becky came back, this place had changed a little too. So yeah, hang around if you want to see that. You'll see here, it's quite obvious it's two separate sections, with the big gap going in amongst them. Really makes you wonder what's going on here, right? I would love to scrape these stones and pebbles out of the way and get a good look behind there. See how far it goes, or if there's some sort of obstruction in the way perhaps. Who knows? but I would love to have a look. However, as this place is a bit of a walk, and it's clearly affected by when the tide comes in, it's not that simple to do it, so you need to time it just right. But we will be back, and we'll hopefully scrape some of this out of the way and see what's behind her. And we will actually be back here later in the video. But for now, here's a wee snap of the area before I move on. So here we are getting closer to the point on the map that they say is called Old Walls. Then you come across this stuff on the way, look at it. All piling up at the same spot. Quite interesting, isn't it? Moving on, here's a good look at the side of what we think might be a structure. I mean, it's very interesting. Block-like shapes galore, interesting angles, lines, caves, as we just saw. Yeah, very interesting. And it looks like we weren't the only ones to think this place was intriguing, because it seems like Ned and Ben valued this spot too, whoever they are. Here we are now, on our way to the area known as Old Walls on that old map. And this is us climbing up onto what I believe is Old Walls anyway. And look at it straight away. So interesting, right? Now you'll see looking around this area, there's all sorts of interesting wee shapes in the rock here. Really intriguing, some of them. You'll see one of them up ahead that looks, to me anyway, it looks like some sort of tree stump or, you know, circular base or something. You'll see it just there. But there's quite a few like this. You'll see another one diagonally right up from it. There's a lot of them, and actually there's a lot of bigger ones, which I'll point out when you see us return later in this video with Becky, so look out for that. So what was this? Is this some sort of old forest floor? I don't know, because when you see parts like this, the straight part, and this is what it looked like when we came back, look at that weather, but when you see things like that, it really does look like a wall to us, anyway. You know, maybe old walls. I mean, look at that, it's really interesting. And here's a wee look at that straight piece right there. Please let us know what your thoughts are. Personally, I think this could be a glimpse of the old world. Now here's the further parts along of it from a different angle, just to show that different perspective. And while walking around in this area, I did actually notice some interesting points. And here is one of those interesting points. What do you think? To me, this really looks like metal coming out of the stone. I mean, and that is just mind-boggling. How did that get there? What was it for? I really don't know. Please share your thoughts. I think this could be something really, really old, and that could just be a reminder of the old world. So here on the map you'll see Old Walls there, and that's where I believe we are now. As you see along from it another standalone, which I'll be going to in a little moment after this actually. So yeah, you'll see what I mean by the layout of the land, and that's where I believe we are. And then, if you look further, we'll move just a wee bit along, and we're back at Bilsdean and Otter Hole, and everything else from the last two Bilsdean videos. So here are some of the views that I saw as I made my way from Old Walls over to that second standalone, and you can see it just up ahead there. So here we are getting close now, and you can see it peeking up behind all these boulders and rocks just lying around. And to me, this stuff, you know, in my brain, it could just be rubble. It could be rubble from a wrecked old world structure, or it could just be lots of rocks falling off the cliff. What do you think? Look at that. Some of the rocks in the area, they look amazing, and it's a great place to just look around. But here is the Standalane rock itself, and this is what's around it on the ground level. Look at that. Very familiar, isn't it? Very like the other one. Lots of interesting holes and stuff all over it. What do you think? Again, that debate, is this natural? Or was this an old structure that is completely worn down and ended up like this through who knows how long a time? I don't like to notice that little ditch that I had to step over. I just want to highlight that because I think that could be a part of the bigger picture. And there'll be a point that I highlight as we make our way back to the cave that's very familiar to that as well. For now though, we're just continuing to show some more of this area here at the Standalane. Look at these interesting rocks up ahead with the strange lines and stuff in them. Yeah, please share your thoughts on this. I do think this looks suspect, and look at this, look at the layout of this. Very familiar, actually, very like the last one. I probably need to look at the sort of layout and compare them to each other at some point. But there's that ditch again you can see running up, and it continues along. You'll see up ahead. There is boulders and stuff in them, but I don't think that they were from them. Maybe they were some sort of coverings. It certainly looks like this is some sort of ditch. What do you think? So here is an image showing you what it looks like standing out here, and oh, remember this would be filled with water. But a lot of similarities to the last one, right? And speaking of the last one, just to show you exactly where we are, you can actually see Otter's Hole behind these other explorers. There it is, Otter's Hole, from the last video. So you can see how far we've walked in this one from Thorntonloch Beach. And you'll see that underneath all this seaweed, this is just a very interesting area. I would love to come back here and have a further look around, but for now, here is what I saw before I decided to run back to Becky, who, bless her, was still waiting in the car for myself. As we look around, there's lots of wee interesting nooks and crannies that I would love to get a look in with the camera and see what was there, but maybe that's for another time. I noticed these also sort of holes, little channels coming out of underneath the rock here. This looked very intentional to me. I tried to get in a bit further there, but I didn't realise how deep the water was. So yeah, I kind of splashed in it. Whoops. But there was another one just round here that I wanted to show you, and I wondered how all these worked, if they were connected. Again, that's if this was something old, an old structure, which I do think they had a good chance of being. Some interesting points, right? Look at this. There's another one very similar. So were these doing something? Were these part of something? What do you think? Here's a good look at this, all the rocks and rubble that looks like it's just fallen off that cliff. And looking away up on the top, look at these very suspicious looking block shapes. I mean, I don't think there's much to argue with here. This looks suspicious. And here's a final look at that Standalane rock as I now start to make my way back towards Becky, passing everything, walking along the way I came. I thought I'd point out this rock on the way back because it showed that that black stuff is actually on the rock rather than all the way through, because we saw some points like this in the last video. Here's another wee look at it. Continuing to make my way back now, here's some more of what I saw, including this giant block looking thing here, and many more bits just like it. And further up, I wanted to point out this because, again, this part looks like two separate blocks, but then you see this, where they're actually joined together, and I thought that was really interesting. So I just wanted to show. And here is another look at that part. Really interesting, isn't it? Lots going on there. So is this weathered down eroded rock, or were these two geopolymer blocks stuck together? What do you reckon? Here's a wee glance at the area as I get moving on. I also noticed this, which was a really intriguing spot. I mean, look at this block first of all, with this metal on it. And again, there's one of those metal looking pin things, sort of joining it on. It's been hammered in. I wondered if that was similar to we saw down at the beach there. Really old. Don't know what this is from, and I thought it was really intriguing. I actually couldn't see this the second time we went back. Did have a wee look out for it, but I thought I must have walked past it, so if ever I come back here, I'll try and find this again. But you'll see it's a really unusual block, and then there's another spike, a metal spike sticking out of it down at the bottom, which I'll get a good look at in just a second. Here it is. Look at that. I mean, what is going on in this area? Wonder what the history of this was. Nothing on the maps, nothing I could find written down about it. Here is a look at that really interesting stone with the metal on it. Yeah, please let me know your thoughts. And look at the smaller stones stuck in the cement, sort of stuff looking around it. Really intriguing. A really interesting stone. Please, yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments about what this could be. Thanks. Continuing on my way back now to Becky, and we're just approaching the cave, and you'll notice this strange sort of channel here. Look at that. Clear channel in the rock, and if we actually follow it, which I'm going to do right now, it runs in the direction of the cave, which is just up ahead here. Is this a coincidence, or could this mean that they were working together in some way? What do you think? We're almost back now, just a couple of things to see before returning for visit number 2. Oh, you might appreciate seeing this really interesting gathering of rocks and stuff and stones all stuck together into one. Look at that. And not to forget this bright orange, radioactive looking log that was washed up to. And tragically, for the second time, we've got a wee bit of passed away wildlife just washed up on the beach here. Such a shame, a wee fish. Rest in peace. Don't worry, we'll find some living wildlife soon. We're almost back now, and that building up ahead, that's the nuclear power station actually. But I did manage to find a wee bit living wildlife before I went away. So here you go, a wee sea snail. That'll do it for this now, but we will find some more later on in the video. We made it back to this wall now, and I thought you might be interested to see one stone that I did find that wasn't modern concrete looking stuff. Look at that. This looked like it's just a big stone, a big rock that they'd used here. So I thought that was interesting, and I just thought it was worth pointing out. And here's just another wee interesting stone that we saw on the way out. This strange bit here, they look like they've stuck all sorts of stones to the concrete. But that was it for our first visit. Me and Becky, we go back again together. Becky brings the right footwear this time, and we both managed to walk back to the cave together. This time the intention was to dig out some of those pebbles. Unfortunately though, as you see, when we returned, the weather was very different, and with that it brought a few changes. One of those changes was actually to the cave itself, unfortunately. And as said, I find more wildlife, so here's a wee tiny bit wildlife, just a wee fly. Now we're just making our way back to the cave area, but as I said, the area sort of changed a bit. It was a way more atmospheric, and some of these waves and sounds and stuff going on in the area was just really interesting. So yeah, we thought we'd include some of this in the video, so check it out.
Aye. Aye, it is.
Here's another wee interesting point we thought you'd appreciate seeing. Looks like a modern maybe concrete perhaps, but with this pipe inside the stone. I thought you'd like to see that. Really cool.
Right, oh. Oh, you need to keep that. Remember.
Here we are, getting to some familiar territory. I'm sure you recognise this area. One of my favourites, actually. And we are now getting closer to the cave. But here's some snaps before we move on.
Look how it spirals in here, bit. Look, it takes a wee moment to spin here. Cool, eh? Yeah, that is Bex, look.
That's right, here we are back at the cave. And as I said, my intention was to scrape out some of those pebbles and stones that we saw last time. Unfortunately though, as you'll see, and as you can probably see now, it changed a bit, and that was no longer a possibility for this visit anyway.
Pretty cool, eh? Here, wait, it's filled up with sand since I was last year. Shit, man. It's not, I won't be able to dig out much in that. Is there telly in there?
It looks like it.
This had no sand in it when I was here. Now I can't dig out. Oh well. Let's go see if it is a telly. It's a fucking telly. Becky! What? I was able to walk right back. Now I can't get hardly in.
So that's right, it completely filled up with sand. Too much sand for me to dig out alone in the limited time that we had here, unfortunately. Also, just for the record, it turns out that wasn't a telly. It was actually just some sort of wooden planks from the bottom of one of those sort of fishing traps. But here again is another look at the separation between the rocks. Really interesting, right? Really sad though that I couldn't scrape away the pebbles and stuff, but you know, we will be coming back here. We've made plans to come back here because we really like the area. But once again, please leave your thoughts on this. Really intriguing, right? Here's another look at that really rusted looking bit. Do you think that could have been metal?
test out the drone.
That's right, we've got a wee spookies drone now that we're going to test out and see if we can get a view of the sides of these cliffs. Just for a wee bit of fun. And this was just our second attempt at flying this.
There we go, I can see it. That's crazy.
Is it looking at you?
Yeah, right there.
Oh, that was okay, that was okay.
That's there.
Yeah.
I'm still not figuring out the buttons yet, so
Okay.
it's a better landing.
Yeah, definitely. It was a soft landing as well and a nice
Right.
flat surface.
Let's try again. Let's try and keep it steady, eh?
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed those wee aerial views of the area. As I said, we're new to using the drone, so as we become more confident with it, we'll use it more and more going forward. This is where we had to come and pick up the drone, but now I'm heading back to Old Walls. And this is me on top of Old Walls, and look at some of these strange shapes. Particularly, I wanted to show these sort of rounded areas. There's quite a few of these, and I wondered what they were, or what they, could have been in the past. If this is an old structure, or perhaps it is just a naturally old area. Whatever it is, I did wonder what these were, and you'll see a whole bunch of them actually in the background poking out. See, slanted, really looking different from their surroundings. Continuing to look around Old Walls, and you'll see again the weather completely different, but there's strange little anomalies in lots of different places actually. You'll find lines and stuff in places, but yeah, these shapes were really what I wanted to show off this time. They seemed like they were something different, and I wasn't sure what. Was it some sort of wooden, wooden log remains? I don't know. What do you think? Please do let us know your thoughts. Really unsure, but this was on the bit that is labelled Old Wall and Old Maps, so it made me really curious. And you'll see that channel again going up behind it. Again, just lots of interesting features in the area. Here's a picture of one of those, and it really does look like wood here, doesn't it? Some sort of, stump. What do you think? Really intriguing, right? Again, looking around, some interesting lines and things in the area. Makes you wonder what is actually going on, if anything. Look at this as well. It looked like there was something underneath the sandstone poking through there. But again, these interesting lines. I mean, look at this. Do you see them? They're really thin lines as well, right down there. But I just thought it was fascinating. Here is another point I thought was interesting. I just wanted to highlight. We're at the side of old walls here. I mean, look at the interesting shapes and that going on. I mean, you could just think this is natural, and you know, most people would, and I would have. But there's just these wee interesting bits in the corner here that made me think, possibly otherwise. And you'll see here this thin line going all the way up with a sort of rustic look to it. It might be nothing in itself, but when you see the other lines in there, I mean, look at that going all the way up. It's really like a seam, isn't it? Two sections, and it goes right along. It just made my mind boggle, so I wanted to share it. But it was almost time to go back, so I thought I'd better make my way back to Becky. So we're still over here, you can just see her in the background there. And as we have our final looks around this area and make our way back to Thorntonloch Beach, don't go anywhere, because I've got another wee spookies treat coming up as me and my dad visit a nearby location. For now though, here's me and Becky looking around the area, seeing what we find on our way back.
Always find Billy just up at the beach, eh? Right, I'm ready to roll. Did you build that?
Here is a really good view of the cliffs as we make our way back, and look at how amazing they look. It's just really interesting, I thought. Especially the corner. I mean, this could be a natural crack, or perhaps it could be a seam between two sections. I wanted to highlight it anyway, because I thought it was really interesting. And speaking of interesting, back at one of our favourite spots now, I thought I would highlight another wee intriguing little spot up here. And if you zoom in, as we're going to do now, to this point, I thought these looked kind of like blocks, and it just made me wonder what could be underneath all the grass and all the plants and foliage in the area. But I think that a lot. But yeah, it really did make my brain wonder about that. What do you think? Here we are anyway, as we continue our way back to Thorntonloch Beach. But don't go anywhere, because we do find a couple of intriguing little things along the way.
Oh yeah.
And here is one of those, which appears to be a fossil. Now we have no idea what this is a fossil of, but it clearly to us is a fossil. So if you know anything about those sort of things, please do let us know in the comments. We'd be really interested actually to know what this is, or what it could be hidden in the rock here. But here is a couple of close-up images of it for you to look at as well, so please do let us know what you think.
There. That's where we are.
On our way back to Thorntonloch Beach now, and there's still a few more things we want to show you. And here's one of them. You'll see that rock where the sandstone begins, and that highlights the whole area. You'll see the platform of sandstone carries on behind it for some time, and I just thought it was really interesting that this, this risen bit clearly shows where it begins and where it carries on for a full section, and then it does come to a stop again. There's Becky just showing us some of the rocks she found in the area, but there it is. There's that beginning part of the sandstone again. Really intriguing, right? Here we are now walking on that sandstone platform, and I wanted to highlight this interesting little spot. Look at the shapes in the rock. Really unusual, isn't it? You can see lines crossing over each other, sort of like a crisscross shape. So I thought it was worth highlighting that. And if we zoom in, you can actually get a better look at it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Maybe it's nothing. I mean, maybe this is just where some logs or broken trees or something lay when it was turning to sandstone. Who knows if it is natural, that is. Otherwise, I thought it was worth highlighting anyway. Moving on though, and we'll have a further look around the area, see what we can see. And here's one of those strange big bits. This was solid as a rock, believe it or not, despite looking like maybe soil or something from further off. Just really cool. Again, I did highlight this earlier on, I believe, but wanted to catch it again, just while I was here. Why not, eh? And here's a second fossil that we found. Look at this, sort of like a wee fins of a tail of a fish or something. What do you think? It certainly seemed like there were fossils there to us anyway, but we are just amateurs. Here's a better look at that in photograph form. Again, please do share your thoughts on this. And here's just a wee look at the other side of that stone. But we better get moving on now because we needed to get back home. As we were walking along the beach back, we saw a little sign. Maybe this is a sign to us, telling us that we need to go back to Roslyn. Because we actually found this brick with Roslyn printed on it, saying where it was made from. So yeah, maybe that is a little sign. Maybe we need to go back for our part 3.
It does!
Yeah. Oh well.
In fact, look, you can see in, like, I don't know if you can
Get on the camera.
take that out, but look, it goes in and...
Oh yeah.
I'll keep this on.
Cool.
Before we leave Thorntonloch Beach though, here's an actual wee bit wildlife. These wee birds, I love the way they run away from the waves and then start walking back as they recede back to the water. But yeah, just a wee bit wildlife for you, since we were a wee bit unsuccessful in our first half of this video.
I'll go get them. Oh, come on.
Here's a final wee glance at some of the wild waves out there. But as I said, we are going to be moving on now for a wee spookies treat as me and my dad visit somewhere nearby. And I'll show you on the map just in a moment. Somewhere interesting to note though, that you're going to see a little bit of, is the power station that we mentioned, the nuclear power station, and there it is there, Thorntonloch Nuclear Power Station. So this is a prominent feature in the area of course, and you're going to see a little bit more of it in this next wee spookies treat. Right before we jump to that though, look at this, there's a wee bit bonus wildlife waiting for us above the car when we got back to it. A wee tired snoozing wood pigeon. Bless him, eh?
Groovy.
Just to explain exactly where I'm going with my dad, you'll see old walls there. We're going to move all the way up past Thorntonloch Beach. There's Thorntonloch there, where me and Becky just were. And we go up here to this point up here where it's sort of the bend, you know, the little corner. And you'll see a place there called Skateraw Harbour. That's where we're actually headed, me and my dad. Getting a closer look, you'll see Skateraw Harbour there. You'll see Chapel Point. This is the areas where me and my dad's going to be wandering around in these next wee clips, so hope you enjoy it and we find some really interesting things. First off, a wee bit wildlife, not really wild though, but here's some sheep for you. Scottish sheep. Now I came across some interesting pictures from the area of a really strange feature that I wanted to see for myself. Luckily I'd actually managed to track down the people who took those photos, and they were nice enough to direct me to the location. So we're going to head down to there now and show you what we found.
Rocks. That's where we're off to. We found it. Someone stuck a tongue in it. It's cool, eh?
So this is it, check it out, this really strange snake carved into the stone seemingly. I thought this was really unique. I couldn't find any information about it really, nothing on old maps, so that implied to me it was probably something modern, but then look at this really unique area, it's really intriguing and got my brain going. I mean, look at these big block looking things coming out the rock. Could this be
cool is
something
that,
old? You never know. But I did think it probably was something modern, but what a great piece of work. Look at the eyes, look how smooth it was and things like that. And this place is kind of out of the way, it's not like it's the most, desirable area to visit. It is right next to a nuclear power station, right enough. But you just never know. But we thought we would show it anyway, because it was a really unique feature of this land. And if you look up here behind the grass, again, it's that familiar story looking like there's blocks or something behind there. It might not be though. And here will look like an old root or something growing out of the rock. I mean, look at that. Again, it's just so fascinating, isn't it? And what could this have been? Is this something metal in the rock? Or is this just another stone? Again, thought it was worth highlighting. But here's some snaps of the snake before we look around the rest of the area. So what do you reckon? Is this an old original feature of the area? Or is it a new modern carving? Either way, very interesting that it's a snake, a reptile, a reptilian of all things, isn't it? Now, as we always do, I thought we'd give you a wee layout of the land, so here's a look around the area where that river flows, and what you'll notice is the river's all stone at the bottom, smooth stone. Look at that. It's really interesting, lovely area. And it reminded me of parts of Roslyn Glen and things like that. Even looking at the sides here, just really interesting stuff again. You'll see that sort of dirt and silt and all sorts of stuff that's built up there on the river. The sort of whiter, lighter part is the actual stone. That's the stone bed of the river itself. And you'll see just collecting all this sort of rubble. So it's actually quite a clear river underneath all that, just smooth stone. Really interesting. We didn't have long exploring this area because we had places to be, but if this is somewhere you think we should come back and maybe explore the further down the burn and see what else is going on in the area, please leave a comment and we're happy to do so. But for now, this is about as far as I got down the river before I turn back and meet up with my dad again. First off, to make up for earlier, here is a lot of wildlife. How nice is that, right? I wonder where they're all heading. Anyway, I'm going to get back to my dad so we can explore some more of this area. And there is some really interesting things to see. Some great bits of scenery. So if you like that sort of thing, stick around for it.
Cheers, Dad. Oh hey, I'll get a picture for here.
Just jumping back to point out these block-like features, and now we're moving on. We're going to have a wee look up the river, very briefly, just to look at some of the stuff going on here. And I just wanted to show you again the bedrock, see? I thought it was really fascinating. Look at this stuff. I'm calling it bedrock, but you know what I mean. The natural stone in the area that's underneath the river. I just think it's fascinating how it looks.
Look at that, that's amazing, eh?
And if we just freeze it here for a minute, you'll see that straight ahead is where all these interesting block shapes and stuff are. And where the snake is itself, you'll see the snake there. Very interesting, isn't it? Again, it just makes me want to scrape all this grass and stuff out the way and see if there is anything under here. Or if it is completely natural.
That's incredible, eh?
Sorry for being a saddle there, but here's a final look at the river before we move on. And here we are, there's the power station we spoke of over there, the nuclear power station. But we're not going to that, we're actually going to look down at the surrounding shore and the surrounding beaches, because there's a lot of really interesting geology around here if you look up the area itself. But I'm not going to go into too much explaining what any of this is meant to be. This is just a wee spooky street, but here is a look at some of that area. And yeah, please share your thoughts in the comments. But this is some of the surrounding geology, and it's really interesting area if you get the chance to explore, especially while the tide's out.
The structure you're seeing now is Thorntonloch Nuclear Power Station. According to Wikipedia, it is the last of the UK's second generation nuclear power plants to be commissioned. Construction began in 1980, despite widespread public opposition. In fact, they said that 4,000 people marched from Dunbar to occupy the Thorntonloch site, with many of them signing declarations to take all non-violent steps necessary to prevent construction of a nuclear power plant at Thorntonloch. Obviously, they were unsuccessful, and the plant was built regardless after permission was granted. Interestingly, we found some information claiming the power station is expected to be shut down in 2028.
Thanks, Dad. That's good. Good wee bit for the video. Thanks for that. Shall we start walking back?
Yeah.
Because we've only got, I guess, 25 to. So I better say it, you know.
That's right, we needed to get going, but we thought we would walk along the beach and see what sights there was on the way before reaching a really interesting area, and actually the area that started making me look into this site, so look out for that. But here's some of the things we saw on our way back. Here's the sights from the beach as we walk along next to the rocks, making our way back to where we started. And here's actually one of the strangest rocks I've seen, in my life anyway. Look at this, how interesting is that? Look at the strange shapes on it and the way they're curved. And then there's that right angle at the bottom left as well. They're really interesting, right? Had to capture that because I thought, wow. Here's a view of all those rocky cliffs and stuff as we are now on the beach. And we're making our way around to our interesting spot. Next to the spot I wanted to explore actually was this, and I believe there's meant to be a remains of a harbour in this area, Skateraw Harbour. Which it might have been, but I just thought I'd capture it because it was all stones and things like that. Very intriguing, right? But that's not why I came over to this end. We came over to this end because of this. And I'm going to leave Becky to tell you a wee bit about it.
What you see now is actually a lime kiln. According to geograph.org.uk, this would have been top loaded with coal and limestone and burned slowly to produce lime. It's said that the area was quarried for limestone for some time, hence the kiln's location here. You'll see as we walk around here that there are 4 vents, one placed at each side of the kiln. The structure can be seen as far back as Forest's map of 1799, and it's now a Category B listed building.
So there you have it, a lime kiln, eh? Quite an old one too. What do you think about that? Anyway, this was just about out of time for me and my dad, so we had to get moving. So this was the last thing that we saw on this wee visit. Just before we leave though, check out this view of the Thorntonloch power station over there in the distance. Look at that, eh? And here is Skateraw Beach, Skateraw Harbour as it was known. And there's the kiln. Now that just about does it for this adventure, but it has led us to look at some other places nearby, which we will get to showing in due time. However, we do have some other stuff on the way, so we're going to share a wee sneaky peek at that, and here's a wee bit from in Edinburgh actually. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, especially if you're still listening to it this far in. If you did enjoy it, maybe give us a wee like.
Or maybe subscribe to our channel to see what's coming next.
But hopefully, we'll see you next time for our next adventure. Cheerio!